Hello everyone in the Secrets to Sleep Baby and Toddler Sleep Help group. My name is Courtney. I am your host. I'm here to help families get a really great night's sleep. I'm a little bit late today just because I have a sick kid at home and there might also be some mumbling or some magnet tiles in the background. Just so you know, I'm not alone today. So today we are talking about Soothers. I'm very excited about this topic. Before we go into Soothers, I just want to do a couple notes about our group. One thing is that if you have not done this already, if you have a question, I definitely recommend checking out the featured section. I've been doing like at least a live per week, so we've got lives on, cat napping, contact napping, things parents should know about sleep, explaining the frequent night waking, Soothers, all the things. So if there's anything that you have a question about, you could even just look through the featured section, watch the live that, fits into your sleep challenges. That's one thing to do. Just so you know, the lives are all posted for 1 month as of the date from it's recorded. So, for example, the frequent night waking one, huge, popular, everybody wants to know why their baby's waking up frequently in the night. It's just about to leave Facebook now, so just so you know, check out that featured section, watch the videos before they go, and the other thing is if you check out the events section, that tells you all of our upcoming events. So we have today about Soothers. Next week we're going to do one on gentle sleep training methods. Sign up for that event so then you get tagged in it, that sort of thing. And then I think mid-March I'm going to do probably like a 4-part series on sleep regressions and go over a few different sleep regressions, why they happen and what to do about them. So if you're interested in that one, post below sleep regressions. And I will tag you in the upcoming sleep regressions event. Make sure you get invited to that, okay? So that's just a little bit of housekeeping on our group. Let's go into Soothers now, okay? I love this topic. It's a fun one. It doesn't really apply to everyone. Not everyone uses Soothers, but it's a good one to know about even if you do or don't use Soothers. I also feel like this is almost like a heated topic because everyone has really strong opinions and everyone's like, there's a lot of people who love their Soothers. So here's where I'm like, all right, if your baby or your toddler has a Soother and you love it and life is great and sleep is great, right? Like you probably don't need me, or you know what I mean? Like it's like, if nothing's wrong with sleep and life is good, then it's good and you don't have to change things. So don't worry. So if that's all you needed to hear, that might be all you needed to hear, right? So if your life is great, post below, life is great, okay? If you have a Soother, and you this is where I come in as a sleep consultant. So I have families all the time that tell me that the Soother's great, they love it, life is good, but that their baby wakes up frequently in the night. This is where I'm like, yeah, your baby is waking up frequently in the night because it's using, it's he or she, right? But because he or she is using a Soother and Soothers interfere with sleep. So this is where I'm like, sometimes we love something and we think it's a really great thing. Soothers make babies fall asleep faster, right? So this is why parents love Soothers. For some babies, it doesn't really interfere with sleep too bad. It's not the biggest deal in the world. And then for others, it interferes with sleep and it makes it really bad, and babies wake up frequently in the night. Definitely, when I work with families, we talk about sleep and what the culprits to sleep are. And if a baby is from 4 to 8 months of age, a culprit to poor sleep is often a Soother, okay? I'm giving that age specifically. We're going to talk about ages. We're going to talk about, what to do about these things. But just so you know, if you love your Soother and you think life is really great because your baby falls asleep and it's this wonderful thing, but if your baby wakes up, let's say a 6-month-old baby, if your baby is waking up, in the night more than once, the culprit could very well be the Soother, okay? A 4 to 6-month-old baby should be waking up about, twice in the night, maybe once, something like that. If your baby was waking up frequently in the night and takes a Soother, then this is likely the culprit, okay? If your baby is older than, 9 months of age and still wakes in the night frequently and has a Soother, the Soother can still be the culprit. It's just that there's a different way to change the problem. It doesn't necessarily mean removing the Soother. Okay, so let's go into it. Let's go into Soothers a little bit. So nobody hate me. I know that it's very heated. People are very passionate for their love of Soothers. But my job is to teach you about sleep. I'm not a dentist. I don't have the same opinions as a dentist does on a Soother. You know, I know that safe sleep companies advocate for Soothers because they have been positively, aligned to, safe sleep. Okay, what my job is to teach families about sleep and how to have a really great night of sleep for babies to sleep really well. And so this is where I'm coming from in my perspective, is that Soothers interfere with sleep. Okay, and we're going to talk about why and how and what to do about it. Okay. So let's first start with a 0 to 4 month old baby. A 0 to 4 month old baby, this is what I consider to be a newborn baby. Okay, from 0, so brand new newborn, preemie, something like that, to 6 weeks of age, a baby does not have any circadian rhythm development whatsoever. This kind of means that they they don't know the difference between day and night. They might be up all night, they might be up all day, they might be, sleeping a little here and there. It's just a little bit random. There's not a lot to it. 6 weeks. Did I say 6 months? I hope I said 6 weeks when I said it. 0 to 6 week old baby, no circadian rhythm whatsoever. 6 weeks is when a circadian rhythm starts to develop. This means that they'll start to have a little bit of concept of day and night. Light's going to start to interfere with their sleep and ability to fall asleep. It's kind of like when you have that newborn baby, they're just so primitive that they can be in their car seat, you can bring them around, you can clap your hands really loud, that baby's not going to wake up, but we know that changes, that they're not like that for forever, right? So 6 weeks of age is a milestone. We can talk about when we talk about regressions, 6 weeks and what that looks like. But it just means that they're starting to develop. And then at 4 months is when a circadian rhythm is fully developed. They now have sleep cycles, they have day and night cycles, and it means that certain things start to interfere with their sleep cycles differently than before. So it means that if you have a 0 to 4 month old baby using a soother, it's probably not interfering with their sleep cycles because their sleep cycles are not that developed yet. Okay, they're just starting to develop. So if you have a 0 to 4 month old baby and you're loving the soother, great, right? It helps them fall asleep, makes life a little bit easier. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. My recommendation as a sleep consultant for anyone who says like, how do I optimize sleep? I recommend not using a soother from 0 to 4 months of age. And the reason why is because it creates habits that later cause issues in sleep. So this is where people call it a 4-month sleep regression. At 4 months of age, there does not have to be a sleep regression if we have really great habits in place. But if we are treating our 0 to 4 month old baby and our 4 month plus baby the same way, then yes, we can have a regression in sleep because a 4 month old baby is an older baby and has new sleep needs. Okay, so if you love the soother and life is good, great. If you want to prevent, a regression in sleep, I recommend not getting attached to the soother from 0 to 4 months of age. Okay, but whichever you do, neither is right or wrong. They're just different kind of philosophies on soothers and parenting and sleep. Okay, when we're now talking about a 4 month old baby, so I'm 4 to 8 months is about the category I use. The reason why is because they now have a fully developed circadian rhythm at this point. Soothers can interfere with sleep cycles, and they're kind of at the age where they're not really in the night. Obviously each baby's going to develop a little bit differently. So where one baby is and where another baby is could be different. But usually I say it takes till they're about 9 months of age to be able to reach over, grab that soother, place it back in their mouth, consistently in the night. Little babies, kind of maybe a 6 month old during the day can grab it, then maybe in the night that would just be like too much development, right? Babies can be a little bit different on this milestone, but it's a general idea. So now that they have sleep cycles, I can show you a sleep chart if you want to see. We as humans, we wake up in the night. It means that we go through deep sleep and light sleep. And if there's anything that's wrong in our light sleep, if I'm an adult, I have to go to the bathroom, I will fully wake up so that I can go to the bathroom and take care of my, needs, right? For babies, the reason why they like soothers is because of that sucking motion. That sucking motion is how they soothe. Okay, so a 4 to 8 month old baby, they're falling asleep because of that sucking motion, and then they fall asleep. Parents love it because that was so easy, that was so great, but then when they go into the light point of their sleep, this can be a reason why they're going to fully wake up, and we call it signaling, which is another way of saying crying. because they're not able to reach over and grab the soother and put it back into their mouth on their own. So this is a sleep association. It means something they need to fall asleep, okay? And if they cannot fall back asleep, right? Normal for us as humans to wake in the night. If they cannot fall back asleep on their own, you know, that's where we consider it a negative sleep association, right? It's normal for us to wake in our sleep cycles. That's normal, it's okay and good. Where it's not fun for us is when they can't go back to sleep in the night. Okay, so this is why babies wake a lot in the night. This is specifically why soothers can be a culprit, okay? Because they're not old enough to grab that soother and put it back in their mouth. Okay? A 9-month-old baby, you know, this is kind of obviously, they have a fully developed circadian rhythm. Their sleep cycles can be, you know, disturbed by things. The difference is that a 9-month-old, you know, can, you know, potentially reach over, grab the soother, and put it back in their mouth, right? So this would then be if a toddler, or sorry, a baby, and then of course a toddler if they, you know, 9 months and up, if they are able to do this, and they are doing this consistently in the night, every time they wake up, they roll over, they grab the soother, put it back in their mouth if they want to, then we wouldn't see it as like a negative sleep association. It would be considered a positive sleep association, right? Because it's like, well, this is great. You know, the baby can lean over, they can grab it, they can put it back in their mouth. Happy life, right? Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so for options for each age, I think I mentioned 0 to 4 months old. Your options to either use it, and then once you go to a 4-month age, then that's where I would recommend to change your how you go about things, so that we don't have that 4-month sleep regression. 9 months of age, your options are, you know, still you can ditch the soother if your baby is struggling. You know, or the other option, if you have a 9-month-old baby that uses a soother and still wakes up in the night, would be for you to help your little one learn to take the soother and put it back in his or her own mouth, right? So for some families, it's like, well, like they can do it, or they do it during the day, but do they want to do it, right? So that's why I'm like, one option is to ditch the soother, then we don't have to worry about this problem. What might be probably easier transition would be in the night, instead of just grabbing the soother and putting it back in their mouth, it would actually look something along the lines of like, sometimes glow-in-the-dark soothers are helpful, sometimes multiple soothers are helpful, some of those things, but not jumping in, not doing it for them when they are capable of doing it for themselves. So that might actually be something along the lines of taking their hand, you know, putting it on the soother so that they can kind of do the motion themselves, getting them used to that, right? We want our kids to have a little bit more independence sometimes, so that we don't have to be waking up in the night. If they're capable of grabbing a soother and putting it back in the mouth, instead of just grabbing and doing it for them, right? Just like any skill, right? My kids are old enough to put their own shoes on in the morning. If I just like jump in and I put their shoes on because it's really quick, they're not going to get this independence and learn how to, you know, all right, guys, we're leaving the house, get your shoes on, then put their own shoes on, put their own jackets on, and go out the house. Like, they're just going to let me do it because that's just so much easier. Same idea in the night. It sounds a little funny because you're like, well, that's going to make each wake up take longer. Yeah, of course it will, right? When our kids are learning skills, it makes everything take longer. But once they've learned that skill, then we don't have to do it anymore. So for a time, my recommendation is to let them take the soother, put it back in their own mouth. It's going to make the wake-ups in the night longer. It's going to be a time where it's a little bit, you know, harder for you, for then that situation to be corrected and for you not to have to get up in the night anymore, okay? That's what I'm about. I'm not about quick, easy fixes. I'm about putting in hard work, you know, putting in the time, working with our kids on some of these skills that they can learn to help them have a really great night of sleep. Once they can do that skill on their own, if that's just their only sleep association, to grab the soother and put it back in their mouth, fabulous, right? You don't have to do it again, right? Okay? Now, most of the families that I work with when it comes to soothers, and really it being a problem, is 4 to 8 months of age, because they are not old enough to be able to grab it consistently, put it back in their mouth yet. Okay, so what are our options for this age? There's two options, okay? One is a wait it out option. For most sleep associations, I'm not a fan of waiting it out because we're talking about habits, and when we reinforce habits, our children don't just suddenly change the habit, right? So if we're rocking a baby to sleep and we're waiting for our baby to stop wanting us to rock them to sleep, it's kind of like waiting for them to stop wanting a habit that we are continuing to reinforce, right? So if I take my kids to the grocery store and every single time, we get up to the counter, they ask for candy, and I give them candy every time, they're going to want candy every time, right? Because I'm reinforcing that habit. If I'm like, well, just one day they're not going to want candy at the counter anymore, I might be a little bit unreasonable, right? If I wanted to stop giving them candy at the counter, I would probably have to do something to change it, right? So most sleep associations are habit-based, and we actually have to make changes in order to, see the habit change. For some families I work with, this is, 3 years old, they're still rocking their babies to sleep. That's a very strong reality. It's not that we necessarily need to do like formal sleep training. It just means that sometimes we do need to shift and change our habits, right? Maybe if I, wanted to stop the habit of, buying my kids candy every day, maybe I made a slight change, instead of being like, no candy. And then my kids are like, but we've had candy every single day of our lives. We don't know how to go to the grocery store without candy. Maybe I'm like, okay, instead of doing, and maybe the big candy, maybe we're going to go for the smaller candy, maybe instead of, going for the candy, maybe we're going to go for the slightly more healthy option of, maybe like a fruit leather, it's something like that. So this is where it's like, I have people say to me, like, I never sleep trained, my mom never sleep trained, and I just grew out of it. We don't really know what went on with that. It really depends on how we're enforcing these habits and, what it looks like from there, right? If we're continually enforcing the habits, we are rocking a full-blown rock every single time, it's going to be really hard for them to grow out of their habits, okay? But sometimes people don't necessarily even know how the habits shifted or changed, right? Maybe we sent kids to grandparents' house and grandparents, decided, maybe it's a breastfeed to sleep association. Grandparents, can't breastfeed, right? Maybe the habits shifted somewhere along the lines, and we don't know that something shifted. Babies come back to us, and parents go, yeah, I think my kids just grew out of it, when really there was something that happened that actually changed the habits, okay? So this is where I'm not a huge fan of the weighted out scenario, but when it specifically comes to Soothers, the weighted out scenario is an option because your child will be able to, grow up and be able to develop this milestone of being able to take the soother and replace it, put it back into their mouth. So this is like the only time I'm like, yeah, you can wait it out. They will grow out of it. No, they're not growing out of it. They will develop a skill that will allow them to use a soother, and it would be considered self-soothing or self-settling, okay? I don't like the waited out scenario because to me it's arbitrary in the sense to wait it out and have bad sleep for months when you can make changes and have really great sleep right now. So that's my opinion. I get it that not everyone feels that way, and not everyone necessarily knows how to make the sleep changes, and so those are the options, but that's one option. Waited out scenario, growing into that milestone. Second option is to ditch the soother, right? This is most of the time what I do with my, when I have a 4 to 8 month old baby and we're trying to make changes to sleep, we have to ditch the soother if we actually want to see the sleep changes, okay? I read someone's post today that said something along the lines of, my baby is sleep trained within the 4 to 8 month old age, still wakes up in the night this many times. What do I do? Something like that. If your baby is 4 to 8 months old and sleep trained, they are not truly sleep trained. Okay? This is a tough one. You are not using rocking to help them sleep. You are not using feeding to help them to sleep. But they are not old enough to grab and take a soother and put it back into their mouth. Therefore, they have something that we consider a negative sleep association. They are not sleep trained. Okay? You can wait it out, right, until they're old enough that, this is an okay positive sleep association. They can grab the soother, put it back in their mouth. Or you can ditch the soother if you want them to have really great sleep now. Okay? I think these are helpful things. I know that maybe there might be different opinions out there and different feelings on these things. But from my experience with families, this is very regularly shown to me. People really don't want to ditch the soother, even though it's actually the culprit, it's not helping them out. So you have my you have my information. I love ditching Soothers because they interfere with sleep. And I really love it when families get a really great night of sleep. I don't like it when families spend months and months, fighting with the soother, so that their baby can grow up, be able to replace the soother when they can make changes to sleep now and have a really great night of sleep in a couple weeks' time. Yeah, I think that this is kind of the main thing I wanted to share about Soothers. If anyone has any questions, please post it so that I can answer it. If anyone has anything else to say about Soothers, please post it. I'd love to hear. Some families can sleep okay with a soother, but lots of families don't. Anyways, I just wanted to talk to you, if you want to know how to ditch the soother, right? Because that's the main thing of well, how do I ditch it, right? I don't want to quit cold turkey. Send me a DM. Right? Send me a DM. We can get on a phone call. We can talk about how you can, do a 3 weeks to better sleep program, ditch the soother, and have a really great night of sleep. Right? You don't have to continue in the sleep struggle anymore. I have families all the time that are having a really great night of sleep. Last night, I had a baby, 9-month-old baby, doing the 3 weeks to the better sleep program. They're, 2.5 weeks through the program, and the baby last night slept through the night. Okay? 9 months of age. Mom said she almost felt really worried, being like, is my baby okay? She went in, her baby's fine. Her baby's just a really fabulous sleeper now, okay? And we use gentle methods. It's very exciting, okay? So if you want to ditch the soother and you want to know how to go about that, I definitely recommend send me that DM, okay? Let's do a 3-week program. Let's make changes so that you don't have to lose, the next, few months of sleep on this one, okay? All right, I hope that's helpful for everyone. I will talk to you again soon, and have a good day.